Listeners, hello. It is another episode of the preview show brought to you by the No No Never podcast. It is not Friday night, it is Saturday morning because the Clarets are away on Sunday this weekend at home to Liverpool, the champions. It's going to be a tough fixture. And to preview that game ahead of the weekend, I am joined by the best viewing football himself, Dave Statman Roberts. Dave, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well for a Saturday morning, yes.
It is a Saturday. This is a first for us. We don't normally do this kind of recording this early. I'm a little bit. Good morning, listeners. How are we all? But yes, let's get some things done now, listeners. Before you get on to this preview show, we have, of course, this week published our build up to this game, which where myself and Adam Dennett, who joined us, and Rich Steele all looked back at that debacle away at United. Well, I say debacle. It was a great second half performance from the Clarets, and the team looked ahead to this fixture as well. So if you haven't watched that yet, press pause, reverse back a fixture, go and watch that episode, and this will link into this preview show. Coming up on the show, we will give you a little bit of a teaser from that episode to let you know what Adam and Rich thought ahead of this game. But before we get there, we've got what you all want ahead of this fixture, and that's Dave's stats. Dave, what have we got coming up on the show today?
The usual. We've got some opening stats. We've got some headlines to look back at a memorable match from the past, and we'll do what we can to preview the match with plenty of stats for everyone to consider.
Plenty of stats. How are you feeling after the international break, Dave? I mean, Clarets 3 points from 3 fixtures, and 2 of those fixtures very tricky away ties at United and Spurs and a home tie against Sunderland. We could have and probably should have been on a bonus point with 4 points, but 3 points on the board is pretty much exactly where we needed to be with these fixtures, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we can average a point a game over the season, then we're probably going to be okay. But yeah, we know we've got some tough games coming up, so that point at Old Trafford would have been a real bonus. Shame it wasn't to be. I know you've discussed that in a lot of detail on the previous show, and yeah, it's one of those things with VAR that I think I'm in agreement with everyone else. The sooner it's canned, the better would be my view, but it's not going to happen. So we're going to have to try and live with it. But it is killing the game to some extent, certainly for the fans inside the grounds.
Well, I think that's the problem, isn't it, Dave? The fan inside the ground has been slowly building up to being the bottom of the list of priorities for anybody in football, because quite frankly, the paying fan in the ground doesn't generate the revenue for the league that the TV audiences do, both domestically and around the world. So the game is basically had to focus on the experience for the watching TV fan, because they are the fans that are bringing in the money. So I think that's where we've got to. I think, as Rich said on the analysis show, we've got to this ridiculously extreme version of VAR where it's just it's being run by people who are so particular with the actual finer detail that they can't take a step back and look at this with a sensible and commercial view and make a rational decision that's right for the game as a whole. They're having to do things down to the absolute minute finer detail because those are the personalities that they are. And I think that's probably right. And I don't mean this to be offensive, Dave, but the nature of the people who become referees and match officials, they have that very picky quality about them, don't they? It's like no rules is rules, and that's the skill set that they have to make them referees in the first place. It's almost like a version of the traffic warden person, isn't it? That's the kind of person that they are. They are rule enforcers, and you need that quality in them to be the people who drive that system. But the negative side of that kind of personnel is that they don't always have the ability to step away from that absolute rule and go, you know what, we can maybe take a view on that one. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Let's kick off the preview show then, Dave, and start with your opening stats. What have you got for us for Liverpool at home, please?
Yeah, well, we've played Liverpool in each of our previous 9 Premier League seasons since 2009-10, and we can at least point to a pair of victories. One of those was at Anfield and another at Turf Moor. We'll be looking back at that solitary home victory in more detail in our headline highlights feature shortly, but the other 8 occasions Liverpool have been in town for a Premier League match at Turf Moor, the result has unfortunately been a Burnley defeat. The heaviest of those home defeats was the 4-0 reverse. That was in April 2010, which confirmed our return back to the Championship. Although we've been unfortunate at times, suffering 3 narrow 1-goal defeats, and our visitors have also had a tendency to score late goals. However, Liverpool are the reigning Premier League champions, and as we know, the Clarets have occasionally found a way to win against the current champions. Something that we did at Turf Moor in our very first Premier League home game. That was against Manchester United back in August 2009, and also at home to Manchester City in 2015.
I'm sorry, listeners, I had my mic on mute. I was just sat here on a Saturday morning having a cup of tea, letting Dave talk to himself. Occasionally found a way to win, Dave. I wonder if this weekend will be one of those.
Well, yeah, I mean, the other thing as well is, dare we say it, Scott Parker's unbeaten as a Burnley manager at Turf Moor. We've not lost a match yet. We've drawn quite a few.
Of course. Oh, gosh, I did realise. I'd forgotten that.
It was mentioned in the press conference that kind of that came up, but yeah, I think we're taking a realistic approach. That's not going to continue throughout this season, or if it is, we're probably on for Europe again. I think
we're going for Champions League. I think if we end up going all season at Turf Moor. Well, listeners, as promised, we caught up with the Analysis Show team earlier on in the week to get their thoughts ahead of the game. So this is a little bit of a clip for those of you who've not seen it yet of what Rich and Adam were expecting ahead of the visit of the champions. Turning to the weekend's game then, Rich, difficult opposition. There will be ridiculous favourites. They've started well. They've got world-class players and they're current reigning champions. What do Burnley need to do the ugly and get a result, whether that be a point or a win at home, or is it even possible?
Play 12 men.
Legally.
Have Luis and Hannibal and Cullen and Ogachoka in midfield. No, listen, I think if you asked pretty much every football fan at this current moment, they'd have Liverpool favourites. Obviously, they've added Isak, who will be a great sign, but I don't think he'll start just yet for Liverpool. But on the flip side of that, they've looked quite vulnerable. They conceded 2 against Bournemouth. They were very, very lucky to beat Newcastle. They only beat Arsenal with an absolute wonder goal. But ultimately, they've got that quality, and it is a sign of a good team that when you're not playing well, you can get results. And they can, that second half against Newcastle, Newcastle with 10 men. I don't like to use the word battered them, but completely dominated the game. But they still come up with a moment of magic, and it was a great moment for that young kid, weren't it, to score? That's what football's about. In all the money and the VAR, we still get those moments where a young lad scores a goal like that for the sheer love of the game. So, listen, it's gonna be tough, innit? But you've got ultimately. We don't expect to get anything, but we'll all be going the game on Sunday because we have that little bit of hope that we can do something, and we've done it in the past. We're going to need a lot to drop our way. We're going to need Dubravka to have maybe a couple of shots at the post. Maybe we get a goal, on the counter from a set piece. A set piece. I say a set piece. I doubt it from that, but we're going to have a lot of things go our way. But it's one of the, and that's what I think the annoying thing is about United is because. Knowing that this game and City away, we're going to be so unlikely that we'll get points from, to get that point at United, but it's just been massive for us again. But listen, you never know. Coming back from, I know we've got players in international break. Pretty much every Liverpool player will be away. So, you always look at the start of the season. They're not quite at the best in the rhythm. It might be a decent time to play them. But yeah, I think the approach, people might think I'm negative. I'd quite like us just to be really, really solid in that first half, 20 minutes to half an hour and keep it tight, keep it 0-0, frustrate them as long as possible. And I think we've shown this season, and as game, we can cause teams problems on the counter-attack and maybe frustrate Liverpool. I think the last thing you want to do against Liverpool is kind of like go down 1-0 down early. Just that'll settle their nerves, just settle them down, because then could be a long afternoon for us.
Excellent stuff. Well, yeah, like I did, do check out that show if you do get a chance to. It is. We certainly get very heated about VAR, and I think I'll give you a little teaser at one point. Rich tells me he stopped listening to me. I genuinely thought live on air he was about to quit the podcast, but he was talking about his frustrations with VAR, so that was genuinely quite amusing. Okay, Dave. Headline highlights. What is now becoming our fun fixture ahead of our games, where we have a look into the archives of some newspaper articles. So let's kick off with what you've got for us on this one, Dave.
Yeah, if you've caught any of our match preview content already this season, you'll know that we have a brand new feature which looks back at a particular past match through the lens of newspaper headlines. And so this week we're going to take a look back at a memorable Burnley victory over Liverpool at Turf Moor from early on in the 2016-17 season. Jurgen Klopp was starting his first full season in charge of the Reds, having arrived at Anfield in October 2015. But in August 2016, it was the Clarets who had the upper hand, thanks to a couple of first-half goals from Sam Vokes and Andre Gray. A certain Stephen Defoe also made his Burnley debut in this match. Although Liverpool had 4/5 of the possession, they were largely limited to long-range shots at goal, with Philippe Coutinho being particularly wasteful, sending shots wide or soaring over the crossbar and into the stands on numerous occasions. So yes, we've got some headlines now to look at, starting off with the Burnley Express. We've got a match header, first of all, red letter day for the Clarets. And then if we move on to the actual match report, the headline was, "Possession myth is laid to rest by Clarets." That was referring to the fact that I think Burnley had 19% of possession overall. Liverpool had 81, but it's all about putting the ball in the net and not how many passes you make, which was, that's what happened on the day. And then if we move on to the Lancashire Telegraph, their headline was, "Burnley are up and running in style." It was the match report with some action photos from the game. Liverpool playing in a rather luminous yellow, looking like they were stewards, I think, in that kit they were playing in. And then the other two we had were the Independent. The next headline we had for that was, "Liverpool brought down to earth by brilliant Burnley," and a picture of Burnley players celebrating. I think that was Andre Gray's goal. And then also the Observer, which was, "Vokes punishes Klopp's toothless men," which was, Liverpool having the possession but not doing too much else with it. And then I think we're just finishing up with a picture of Jurgen Klopp. This was pre-match, I think. It was raining at the start, him in his cagoule, not looking too cheerful at the start. So that was a little bonus for everyone there. You're on mute again.
What's wrong with me this morning, Dave? This is why we don't do the preview show on a Saturday morning. Our listeners will be like, "Come on, Natalie, get your acts together." Some really, really fun reminders there. And listen, Dave, anytime on the preview show you can bring me some bonus Sam Vokes material is always very welcome. So I do appreciate that very much. Well, obviously, listeners, we know that Dave puts an awful lot of work into these stats. And I think, Dave, you've got a couple of new graphics for our listeners to look into as to where they can find this. We've got some scrapbook stuff going on, haven't we?
Yeah, I've created just a page to highlight a couple of reports that I've put together. One which is been around for a while, which was the looking back mainly at the Burnley Express scans that are done. So you can go back and look at a particular season and look at all the scans that are available. And then also since then, I've been doing clippings from other newspapers as well. There's nearly 20,000 additional clippings in addition to well over 10,000 from the Burnley Express. They're under option 1. And then option 2 is what I've been doing for the preview show, which was the match headlines themselves. So you can go in, you can search for option 2, and there's a bit.ly BFC News Finder is the link for that. And you can basically go through, select a match, and it pulls out what I've done so far in terms of the headlines. And then there's buttons to click on to actually view the scans as well. I'm still working my way through, so I'm adding stuff in there all the time. But yeah, there's plenty in there, and we're focusing on particular games for the preview show. And then the next page we've got is just the general Burnley stats menu page. The link for that is bit.ly/Burnley Stats QL, bit.ly Burnley Stats QL, and that has all the stuff I've collated in terms of Burnley stats, and there's lots on there to look at.
Excellent stuff. Well, listeners, do check out that website, Dave. This is a real labour of love for Dave, and he's spent a lot of years curating this collection, and it's a really interesting set. Well, it's a fantastic database for taking a trip down Clarets memory lane. And while you're there, if you do fancy giving him a couple of subs to help keep the network going and help him keep that archive going, then that would be massively appreciated. Dave is far too humble to ask for that himself, because he doesn't do it for the money. Well, listen, none of us do this for the money. We'd be in trouble if we did. But certainly in terms of helping Dave out with that, then that would be very much appreciated. Okay. Referee details then, Dave. Do you want to finish us off, letting us know who we got in the middle this weekend and actually behind the scenes?
Yeah, you might be regretting this. We're only in game week 4, and the PGMOL have already appointed Michael Oliver his second Burnley game of the season. We covered our previous record with the Northumberland-based official in charge for that match at Spurs, in which Burnley went on to become the first Premier League team to be punished with a penalty corner under the new 8-second rule.
Of course they did.
Yeah, of course we did. On this occasion, I think we'll spare you the grim statistics of Michael Oliver's previous Premier League games involving Burnley, but needless to say, it isn't exactly rosy for the Clarets. And there's one more defeat to add to the total since we summarised his previous stats just last month. Meanwhile, the video assistant referee on Sunday will be Paul Tierney.
Excellent. Really looking forward to that, Dave. Can't wait. And I think we were saying this before on the show. Another issue that we're finding with the shows this year is that we're just spending so much of our podcasts talking about referees and VAR and nonsense like that. It would just be very, very nice to start talking about some football and some players, particularly with the new players that we've got in from a fantastic transfer window. It would be really nice if we could start talking about proper football analysis rather than anything else. But we live in hope. How are you feeling then, Dave, ahead of this fixture? Is there a chance for Burnley to get anything out of this game? And you know, do we live in real hope here, or is this just a free hit?
Well, yeah, free hit was the phrase I was going to use, and perhaps that meme. So you're saying there's a chance is perhaps particularly apt for this one. Yeah, we're not holding out too much hope, I don't think. Although, yeah, Liverpool have had a good start to the season in terms of results, but there's been once or twice where they've stumbled along to a result, and they do have a tendency to score late goals. So I think it will be a case of just trying to bed down, stay in the game, don't concede early. And as we saw at Old Trafford, that second half, we were a different team. I think we could have been, United could have been out of sight in the first half. Burnley turned it around in the second half. So I think it's a case of trying to stay in games, trying to make it tough for the opposition. And if we can do that, then yeah, there might be a chance. I think a Burnley win is very optimistic. Anyone predicting that, but yeah, could we get a draw? I think a draw's a possibility.
We could get a draw.
Yeah.
We genuinely could get a draw. You know, we could make this really, really ugly, and I think that's one of the things that I'd like to see us do, and which Scott Parker's certainly shown me he has the humbleness as a manager and the personal sacrifice to be able to make his teams do the stuff that's not particularly fashionable to enable him to get points on the board. So I certainly think that's possible. Go with either your head or your heart, Dave. I don't mind which. What are you going to give me as a score prediction?
I think Burnley are probably going to lose. Might be 2-1, but yeah, holding out hope perhaps of a 1-1 draw.
I like that. Well done, Dave. I think I went for a 1-1 draw as well. So you and me, as we tend to be, we're very much on the same page. Excellent stuff. Well, listeners, let's wrap up that short little hit ahead of this weekend's game. That has been your preview show with the best view in football, Dave Statman Roberts, to give you all the key facts you need in the build-up to that fantastic game at Turf Moor. We will be back next week with the analysis show, looking ahead of that game, hopefully not talking about VAR, hopefully talking about some actual football facts. And Dave and I will be back a little bit earlier next week, not the same time. We will be back for our regular Friday night preview show slot to look ahead to the Clarets' next fixture. So do please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss a single episode of your favourite and the original No Nay Never podcast. I've been Natalie Bromley. Until next time. The No Nay Never podcast is brought to you in association with the TalkSport Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The analysis show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby, and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonaynever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners TalkSport. We are proud to be associated with the TalkSport Fan Network.